A lot of Ethiopians come on our lives and say that Ethiopia is not colonized. And the sun is bright, honey. So I just wanted to kind of make a video about colonization and occupation. I think that's what he said. They were occupied, not colonized. So when people hear the word colonized, they think land, soldiers, and permanent occupation on the land, right? But that's not really the full definition. And there is a difference between occupying a land permanently and colonization. And that's why I made this video today. Let's take a quick look at what colonization actually means. Colonization is a long-term process where one group takes control of the land and people and settles there permanently, reshaping the society to benefit the colonizer. Some key features are settlers move in and stay, indigenous people are disabled, controlled, or erased, language, culture, religion, and laws are replaced, resources are extracted for the colonizer's homeland. Power is meant to be permanent. An example of this would be European powers colonizing Africa or the Americas. Now let's take a look at occupation. Occupation is usually temporary control of land, often through military force, without necessary settling or fully restructuring the society. Some key features are military presence controls to territory, no intent, at least officially, to permanently settle. Existing population usually remains. Laws and culture may stay mostly intact. Control can end through withdrawal or treaty. An example, a military occupying a territory during or after a war. Occupation is temporary military control, and colonization is permanent influence over culture, religion, education, and identity. And just by definition alone, y'all, Ethiopia was occupied and colonized. So you can remove an army, but if the idea stays, colonization stays, which is where we are today. Bars. Now, this will explain why a lot of Ethiopians think Ethiopia was never colonized. Here it states colonization implies permanent foreign settlement and control. Ethiopia was invaded by Italy in 1935, but the occupation was short lived. Italy's goal was colonization, but they never fully established permanent control over Ethiopia like they did in other areas. You can read that for yourself. Ethiopians' resistance, internal pressure, and World War II eventually expelled the Italians by 1941. So they think Ethiopia experienced occupation, but not full colonization because the Italians' presence was temporary and Ethiopian sovereignty, well, I guess I should say they think Ethiopian sovereignty was ultimately fully restored, but David shall not like a king on its throne, and a king is actually lacking. Let's keep going. So the key points that they're looking at is the temporary control by Italy. And when it comes to colonization, they say it didn't happen because Italy was never there permanently. Like I said before, um, it states that Ethiopians believe their governance, culture, and or independence was never erased, but David shall never lack a king to sit on his throne, and David's throne is lacking a king. Seriously though, that's why Ethiopia is such a misunderstood case when it comes to colonization. Yes, Ethiopia resisted permanent military occupation. That's true. That part is absolutely true. We're not taking that away from the Ethiopian land or the people that occupy the land. But resisting occupation does not automatically mean resisting colonization altogether. There's a difference. Remember, in 1868, during the Battle of Magdala, British soldiers didn't just fight a battle, y'all. We got to remember, they removed sacred texts, they remove manuscripts, they remove historical knowledge from those people. That's not military occupation. Okay? That don't have nothing to do with military occupation. They stole things that, okay, that's cultural and intellectual colonization, to be specific and in plain English. That's what makes it colonization. Later, Italy attempted to occupy Ethiopia. That was occupation, temporary and ultimately unsuccessful, because what? They didn't win the battle. Ethiopia reclaimed its sovereignty. Italy didn't win the battle, so we understand that part. But here is the truth, the most important part that people avoid. Why y'all avoiding this? It's in plain sight, y'all. Colonization does not end when soldiers leave. Occupation ends when soldiers leave, but colonization ends when belief systems leave, and the belief system that they left behind is still there. So let's talk about religion for a minute. Let's touch on religion, because religion has everything to do with colonization, and Christianity existed in Ethiopia long before Europe. We know it, so we don't got to go there. But what changed was who controlled the interpretation of Christianity. We know it existed there long before. We know they knew God before the Europeans came. When foreign theology, imagery, and religious authority are imposed, faith becomes a tool of control, y'all. Colonization doesn't require erasing your religion. It only requires reshaping how you understand it, how you interpret it, and how you teach it to your people, or if you teach it at all. This is why a nation can be politically independent and still be colonized in thought. I hope we're getting this. I hope we're getting this. You see, modern colonization, it doesn't require like chains and actual slavery that you can see with your eyes. It looks like foreign-centered education, external validation of history, and spiritual systems that no longer belong to the people practicing it. You feel what I'm saying? Christianity was always there. They always knew God, but now it feels like they have a disconnect because it's colonized. So when people say Ethiopia was never colonized, what they really mean is Ethiopia was never permanently occupied by military. And those are not the same thing. So let's look at the differences, which we have already established pretty much, but colonization is permanent takeover plus settlement plus cultural replacement. Occupation is temporary control, usually by military, without full replacement. The distinction matters because sometimes an occupation turns into colonization. When settlements are built, indigenous people are displaced, control becomes permanent, and resources are extracted long term. At that point, it stops being just occupation and functions as colonization, even if labeled otherwise.